A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I am glad you're with us on the program today. We're going to be talking with my friend and contributor at Bearing Arms, John Petrolino, a Second Amendment advocate, firearms instructor, gun owner, and maybe even a concealed carry holder in the state of New Jersey. We're going to be talking about the big decision by U.S. District Judge Renee Marie Bum on Tuesday, granted an injunction against a lot of New Jersey's carry killer legislation, the Bruin Response Bill that established a host of sensitive places where lawful concealed carry was banned, as well as requiring concealed carry holders to hold a liability insurance policy that also struck down by the judge yesterday. She did uphold, at least for now, some of the licensing requirements for would-be carry applicants in New Jersey. And we're going to talk about all of this with John Petrolino here in just a moment. But before we do, here's something we really have to think about. What is happening with the banks? It's literally crazy. Can you imagine what this is going to do to the retirement savings of America? Now, I want to tell you what I've heard from Augusta Precious Metals. Gold buying's on fire right now because people want gold IRAs to protect the retirement savings. And get this, if you have 100,000 plus saved for retirement, Augusta will pay you in pure gold to learn how gold IRAs can protect you. That's a big deal. A pure gold coin for free. Reach out to Augusta Precious Metals today and learn how you can get started with gold. Don't let bank failures get you down. Get this free gold and get some peace of mind. Just call 855-222-4997 to learn whether gold can help protect your retirement and get your free gold coin. That's Augusta Precious Metals at 855-222-4997. Again, 855-222-4997. All right, let's kick off the conversation with John Petrolino about the current state of concealed carry in the Garden State, as well as what might happen next. Take a look and listen. John, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. It's good to see you.
Cam, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I promise Charlie Cook he did not pay me to wear this shirt. I just thought, given our mutual friendship with Charlie, today would be a good day for a shout out.
I was just talking to him today about you, but he'll find out later, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll pick that conversation up maybe off air. But, so I got to ask, yesterday we saw this hugely important decision by Judge Renee Marie Bum, granting an injunction to many parts, not every part of the carry killer legislation in New Jersey, but really, she struck down the liability insurance requirement, right? Because under this legislation, every concealed carry holder in New Jersey was supposed to obtain liability insurance, right? Have you even tried to see if this insurance is available in New Jersey?
So that's a great question, and it's not available. And Joe Danielson, which I don't really speak very kindly of or write kindly about because he's, I'm going to say, the second biggest jerk in New Jersey politics. I think he introduced and rolled out legislation that's going to require insurance carriers to offer such a policy, because no such policy exists. And if we turn back the clocks, Governor Murphy had put out an executive order years ago saying, hey, there is no murder insurance in the state of New Jersey. So things like USCCA are not allowed here, and other policies aren't allowed here. There are some options that are membership programs that you can get in New Jersey, but they really, and like when they went after the NRA Carry Guard, I think that was one of the programs that got shot down. They're now defunct, but that wouldn't be eligible for use in New Jersey. So you have, on one hand, you have, Governor Murphy saying, no, we can't have this murder insurance. And then we have the legislature saying, thou shall have some sort of an insurance mandate. That insurance doesn't really cover willful acts. Insurance, because if I'm going to use a firearm in self-defense, or somebody else is going to use a firearm in self-defense, regardless of the situation, that's a willful act, and insurance just doesn't cover that. Well, they say, well, this is supposed to cover, accidents, and it's supposed to cover. Okay, so no. So Danielson ended up pushing a bill that says thou shall issue such policies, and he was 1,000% sure everything about his bill that he wrote. We know he didn't write it. Was constitutional, and now there's sound bites of this. I don't even know. I might have shared some of those sound bites with you, but there's recordings of him talking about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's interesting. I mean, you talk about the contradiction between Murphy and Danielson, but I think the commonality is how do we best screw over gun owners? Right. Like that's the common thread, and at least in the heads of these anti-gun politicians, is how do we harm these folks who want to exercise their Second Amendment rights the most? And for Murphy, it was, well, we got to shut down the murder insurance, and for Danielson, it's we got to make these gun owners pay more. Got to make it as expensive as possible so we can try to price people out of their right to carry. And sadly, this was one of the areas where Judge Baum said, all right, for now, we're going to let these provisions remain in effect. The increase in application fees, as well as some of these other standards. She did say that making character references come in for an in-person interview, not allowed. But the character references themselves are still okay for now. In-person interviews for the applicant is still allowed. Now, you went through the process of getting your carry license after Bruin, right?
So, yes. And you just gave us a lot to unpack here.
I know.
When we were, because I was at the preliminary injunction hearing, as you know, I covered it. And one of the things that I think she did not really, I'm not going to say get or understand, but maybe it wasn't communicated to her fully, not at the fault of Jensen or Schmutter, which I think are brilliant attorneys, was the matter of a subjective criteria. So if you're going to be sitting here and saying this person is of good moral character, this is a subjective standard. And that the fact of all of this case precedent that we have, New York NYSERPA versus Bruin, we have all this other Heller McDonald saying subjective tests are not okay. Mm-hmm. That kind of got lost in the wash when she said that the Siegel and Coons plaintiffs didn't meet the burden to throw that portion of the law out. And I disagree with that because it's subjective, and period, end of story. There shouldn't have to be an argument. And I think this is something that you've touched on before too. Like, well, here it is. It says it in black and white. There is no argument. So, well, now we still need to make the argument whether or not, and I haven't read all of their briefs. I haven't read everything, but when I was there, I feel that they made the point the best that they could, that this is subjective.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, and listen, I've never met Judge Baum. I don't know anything about Judge Baum other than what I've, read from her opinions. But I kind of got the sense that she's looking at this as, okay, you can have, a fairly exhaustive process of applying for a carry license. But once that license is issued, you've got the right to bear arms in public in self-defense, right? And I'm with you. I do think that she allowed, at least for now, some very subjective standards to remain in place. And she did say that this, this can be brought up again. This was, again, a request for a preliminary injunction. So this has not gone to trial. And she did kind of chide the state of New York for not coming up with historic analogs for a lot of these things. But she said, well, I did the research and here's what I came up with. And so she found that, these things, she believes, at least in the early stages of this litigation, presumptively constitutional. I'm with you. I disagree. I think that we are continuing to talk about subjective standards. Did you talk with any of your character references to find out like what questions are asked of a character reference when somebody else is applying for a carry license? What do they want to know from these individuals?
So for the permit to carry questions, I want to say maybe they just called them and confirmed that they certified that I'm an okay guy, right? And the officer, the PO that handled my permit at the time, I got in contact with him. I talked to him a bit about the process too. So he's like, actually, I'm calling your references. He says he calls all the references, and I think that my references just said, yeah, they called and confirmed that we signed it. But there are jurisdictions out there that aren't going to just do that. They're going to start to ask what I'm going to consider subjective questions. So that portion of the process is, bad. So if you're going through now, if this gets swallowed, and I'm assuming this will get swallowed by the New Jersey Forest System, which is our electronic system. When and if it gets swallowed by the forest system, then these questions will all be online. The reference will get an email, and then it's just a questionnaire with tick boxes. Are they a drunk? Are they a this? Are they a that? And that's it. And that actually makes it objective, right? So if you're having yes or no questions that are talking about somebody's behavior, you're not getting too far into the subjective nature. Now, if they ask a question, I think one of the questions might be, is there any reason why you think this person shouldn't have a firearm? Okay, now that's back to the subjective. But at least if you have it on the computer, it removes the police officer, which is kind of what I want. I want the issuing authority, their questions and their biases completely removed from the process. So that wasn't even the holdup for me. The holdup for me was getting the fingerprints, which you're still going to have to get every 2 years. And I'm not even sure if that's being challenged. Again, I haven't read all of the filing documents. I mean, as you know, the opinion that we just got yesterday was 230 pages.
Right.
So I'm like laying in bed reading this, on the laptop, while Miss P is just snoring away. I'm like, I'll be done in a little bit. And like an hour and a half later, I'm like, you know what? I'm done.
I know.
But that's one of the things that's a holdup is the fingerprints, the reference. And the thing about the references, now they've increased it to 4 references. They want live ink signatures. So, for example, if I said, Cam, would you mind being my reference? Not a problem. I've known you for 2 years. You're a good dude. All right, so we got to get together, and you actually have to sign the paper. You can't in ink, and then that form has to get notarized. So, at least the references don't have to be present for the notary. But now you have 4 people that you got to chase down that you're happy with knowing that you're a gun owner in the state of New Jersey, which is a problem because I don't want everybody to know I'm a gun owner on my sleeve per se. Granted, I'm very public, obviously,
Right.
but I'm not
and
going out of my way to advertise it either.
Yeah, I'm with you, but correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even think I'd be eligible to be one of your references because I'm in Virginia. Don't your character references also have to live in New Jersey?
I don't know about that. And then if it goes electronic, we'll cross that bridge.
Because I'm not 100% confident that that's the case either, but I believe that is the case because I think I wrote something about this for Bearing Arms maybe a year or so ago that, somebody who moves to the state may not know anybody. How on earth are they supposed to have character references that can attest to their good moral character if they, if they're a transplant? They don't have, longtime friends or associates there. Again, it just look. What if you're antisocial? What if you don't have 4 close friends? Right? I mean, again, this to me is such an invasion of not our privacy necessarily, although I think it is an invasion of privacy, but it is such an intrusion on our individual right to keep and bear arms, which should not be subject to our neighbor's approval or to the anti-gunner down the street's approval. This is our right that we possess as individuals, and frankly, we start with that right. We can lose it. But in New Jersey, it still seems like they're taking it backwards, right? You start with no right to keep and bear arms, and only after you prove to the state's satisfaction that you are of good moral character do you gain access to that right.
Right, and that's how the licensing laws are written. It's unlawful to possess a handgun unless you've gotten a permit to carry. That's where the bar is set, and then there's exemptions. And we've talked about all those exemptions. So what they've done is they've written out exemptions into the statute with these 25 sensitive places. Is okay. Well, we can't have this, rule by exemption anymore. So you can't carry anywhere else. And one of the things I joked about, over a year ago, was around February of last year, before the NYSERPA decision, was, New Jersey's going to probably write a law that says you can't carry a firearm within 1,000 feet of a mailbox and 1,000 feet of a light bulb. So that leaves you a very small section in the Pine Barrens where you can go and carry your firearm. And, if anybody's watched The Sopranos, the Pine Barrens is a dangerous place,
Yeah, and it wasn't quite that bad, but it was almost as bad. And this, I think, is really where Judge Bum's decision is really good news for gun owners, because the vast majority of those places that the state of New Jersey defined as sensitive, where guns were banned by default, she said there's just no historical basis for these things. So everything from, casinos, healthcare facilities, she said, maybe, a hospital, but an ambulatory care facility you can't ban guns from. New Jersey also tried to make it impossible for concealed carry holders to carry in their car. Right. You had to have your firearm unloaded. And she said, that can't stand either. It seems to me like, that alone, John, and again, I assume that the Third Circuit Court of Appeals is going to stay Judge Bum's decision. I hope that's not the case, but I assume that's going to happen, and that, these gun-free zones are probably going to remain in effect at least for a short while longer. We'll see what the Supreme Court does. But that in itself, I think, speaks to what the state of New Jersey was trying to do with this legislation. They were not trying to respect the right to carry. They were not trying to ensure that law-abiding citizens had access to this right. They were trying to give the middle finger to the Supreme Court and to gun owners like yourself and say, listen, you may have that right on paper, but in reality, you can't carry for self-defense at all. As you say, maybe a couple of places in the Pine Barrens, but if you're out and about, you don't have the ability to protect yourself in your car from a carjacker. You don't have the ability to protect yourself in most public places. Basically, their message was, don't even apply for a license. Just, really don't even keep a gun at home. But if you own a gun, that's where it should stay.
Oh, yeah, entirely. And the law as it was written, and even the transportation, as egregious as that is, this is suburban New Jersey and urban New Jersey. There's a bit of rural New Jersey, right? It's the Garden State for a reason. But this is the most densely populated state in the union. And so if you're going to get out of your car and then you have to get your firearm out of a locked case and then load it and then holster it in the parking lot of one of your shopping centers, you're going to get pelted by mochachinos from Karens. This is going to be apoplectic. And then the non-brandishing portion of the law that the Judge Bum did not enjoin, she said, well, this is kind of, we've got it on good faith that this isn't a big deal. I believe I read that there. That is a big deal when you're going to require people to, do it that way. So and I'm with you, I think that the Third Circuit's going to stay this. I don't think they should. And this is something that I've said to a lot of people. But here we are now, almost not quite a full year yet. Probably the first permits were issued in August or September of last year. There's been zero incidents that we know of with a lawful concealed carrier, creating mayhem or anything like that, or even a lawful self-defense episode. Zero. And I can say that with certainty because it would be all over the news. CNN would be blasting it out. NBC, CBS, everybody would be talking about it. And then you and I would be over here running damage control, right? I mean, tell me, so they're very hubris about this. Now you have people that have been carrying for almost a year now. And Platkin, I don't really care for the Attorney General Platkin. is running his mouth about how this is bad precedent, this is a bad decision. And I wrote about this at another site, news2a.com. I wrote about this. He was lauding how great the Supreme Court was on the decision for the New York and the New Jersey Waterway Commission being, dissolved, and the Supreme Court was right, and it was a unanimous decision, and they're great. Well, they're not so great now, are they? He's just a whiny little lapdog of Murphy's. So I tell people, I recommend people go ahead and take a look at that piece on news2a.com. And also I've written about Murphy's comments about this back last year. So these guys were not happy about this, very openly hostile towards gun owners. And it's like, guys, you just need to stop. It's time to hang it up.
I don't think they can. I honestly, I don't think they can stop. Murphy would be persona non grata in the Democratic Party if he were to drop his objections to concealed carry. And I think Murphy's got an eye towards higher office. I don't think he's done after his term as governor is up in New Jersey. So they're going to keep going. But, this is something that Judge Bum even mentioned. She said the whole reason why the legislature passed this law, supposedly, was to protect the public. But violent crime has actually gone down since the Bruen decision came out in New Jersey. Even as more concealed carry holders are present. So, she kind of took the legislature to task, not only for trying to do an end run around the Bruen decision, but even for the rationale behind the concealed carry law. It was not a perfect decision from Judge Bum, but it was a good decision overall. I think, even though we didn't get everything we asked for at this early stage, as you say, 230 pages. This was a thoughtful opinion. It was not a knee-jerk reaction one way or the other, right? Upholding everything that New Jersey pushed for, or just simply saying, shall not be infringed. There's a basis for the judge's decisions. And even the parts of the law that she upheld for now, she made it clear that that's not her final decision, right? There is an opportunity for the plaintiffs to make the arguments that the state of New Jersey is violating the rights. She just has not been convinced at this early stage. Again, do I wish it was a clean slate win for gun owners? Absolutely. But this,
right.
To me, anyway, this is still a big step forward for gun owners like yourself in the Garden State.
Oh, absolutely. It is. The one step backwards that we did take that I believe is the private property rights. And I'm into property rights. Don't get me wrong. So Brian Bergen, Assemblyman Bergen, he brought this up in some of the committee hearings, talking about, well, if I'm walking my dog and my dog, does his business on somebody's lawn, I've got to step on their lawn to clean that up. And if I don't have permission to be on that person's property and I'm armed, that's supposed to be a felony. And Joe Danielson said, yes, I believe that should be a felony. So, cleaning up your dog excrement should be a felony. And that portion of the law, the private property permission, I believe she did not enjoin. I believe she said that you need to get express permission in order to go on private property that's not open to the public. So private property open to the public, you should be good to go. And again, once all of this works its way out, we'll get it from the legal eagles. Don't take my word for it at all. But I do believe we walked backwards on the private property not open to public, and how that's going to flesh out. And something like the dog doo-doo incident, how that's going to weigh, in the big picture is, you're doing your due diligence.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, she did, and it is important to note that, again, that's private property not open to the public. So the whole idea of New Jersey wanted every bit of private property to be a no-gun zone by default, right? And that would include commercial establishments. Even if there were specific things like casinos, that's completely off limits. In essence, every private business was off limits. And Judge Bum said, no, that's not the case. They can post signage saying guns aren't allowed. But you're right. When it came to, people's domiciles, she said, well, yeah, that seems to be reasonable. I think there's probably a way. There's certainly a way for the legislature to address it, but I think there's a way for the courts to address it so that, incidental venturing onto someone's curtilage for the purpose of, picking up dog poop, or you dropped your wallet or whatever. There should be a way that does not become a felony offense, while still respecting, because I'm with you. I'm a big believer in all of our individual rights, not just our right to keep our arms, but our right to private property as well. So if a homeowner wants to say, listen, this is a gun-free zone, okay, I think they should be able to do that. But as you say, there's got to be a reasonable way for lawful gun owners to go about their daily business, including picking up their dog's business, without worrying about being put in prison for 3 to 5 years, simply because they, as you say, clean up a bit of dog poop, or, maybe gave their neighbor their mail or something like that. I hope that that's something that can be fleshed out in the courts, because, again, I know we're not going to get any relief anytime soon from the New Jersey legislature.
No. And none of these things should be felonies. Zero. None of this stuff should be felonious. It should be, if you want to play this game, then it's a ticket. Let's play this game. This is a fundamental right. Show me another fundamental right that if you abuse it, you get a felony. Tell me what that right is,
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I am absolutely with you. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on the program. And, of course, by now that I appreciate everything you contribute to Bearing Arms. But thank you again for spending some time with us today. And like you said, you can check John out, not only at bearingarms.com, but at ammolandnews2a.com. You're getting around, man.
I am. I'd be remiss if I didn't first, finally throw out a big thank you to all of the people involved in these cases. It's tremendous. Association of New Jersey Rifle Pistol Clubs is one of the cases. And then we also have the Second Amendment Foundation Firearms Policy Coalition, CNJFO, NJ2AS doing one of the other cases. And I have to say that Daniel Schmutter and David Jensen are tremendous attorneys. These guys are doing great work. Look into those groups. Those groups are doing God's work for all of us. They really are, and support them. I just have to throw that plug out there, because as well as I do, a lot of our rights wouldn't be here as far as the Second Amendment goes if it wasn't for some of these key players.
Yeah, absolutely. John Petrolino, you're a key player as well, my friend. I thank you so much for coming on the show, and I look forward to doing this again very soon.
Thank you for having me, Cam. It was a pleasure to be with you.
I appreciate John joining us on the program. And of course, be sure to check out John's writings at bearingarms.com, as well as, AmmoLand, some of the other places where he shares his stories. Right now, let's turn our attention to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day. And our recidivist report, we'll start there with a story out of Nebraska, where a North Platte man sentenced after a burglary spree that included, by the way, an armed robbery charge. Given that this is the recidivist report, you might guess what the sentence this man received for his crime spree was. Yeah, 40-year-old Matthew Patch pleaded no contest to 2 felony burglary counts, and District Judge Cindy Volkmer sentenced him to 36 months probation on Monday in Lincoln County District Court. He elected to pay restitution to the sum of $7 to Dollar General, as well as $300 to a Laundry Zone out of his bond. According to police records, Patch spent the day of November 25th, 2022, making stops at the Quick Stop, Time and Tool Equipment Rental, Dollar General, North Platte Pawn Shop, and Laundry Zone. According to the North Platte Telegraph, all of these incidents involved Patch wearing a mask and tennis shoes, although he changed other accessories to his outfit. And at each stop, he managed to take goods ranging in value from between $200 to $500, cutting a hole in the wall of multiple businesses with a knife, and then taking what he could get his hands on. Sometimes he would climb through the ceiling to gain access. Also performed armed robbery with what appeared to be a firearm at the Quick Stop, broke into the Laundry Zone through the front door. So again, this was not one incident. This was a string of incidents. At one point, again, brandishing what he wanted the victims to believe was a firearm. And Matthew Patch getting a slap on the wrist and sent on his way, 36 months probation, and a don't do it again for a one-man, one-day crime spree. Today's Armed Citizen story from Houston, Texas, where a woman who works at a daycare and her new boyfriend ended up in a shootout with her ex, who she says had been stalking her, and approached her outside of the daycare. Yeah, this is a scary situation here. And, again, daycares are one of those places where Democrats say, well, there should be a gun-free zone. Nobody should be able to bring a gun inside a daycare facility. And I understand as parents, we want to make sure that our kids are safe. But I also understand that in some circumstances, that means those daycare employees have the ability to fight back, whether it's against an attacker who is targeting the kids or someone who is targeting them. According to ABC 13 in Houston, the daycare employee just arrived at the daycare when police say her ex-boyfriend showed up. She had previously told the owner of the daycare that her ex had been stalking her. But according to ABC 13, it's not known at this point whether a restraining order or calls of domestic violence had been documented. Detective Chad Graham with the Houston Police Department said that the man confronted the woman about something before both of them started shooting at each other. Police got 10 shots were fired, both sent to the hospital with wounds to the abdomen and chest. The woman listed as stable, the suspect in critical condition. The woman not facing any charges. The suspect, however, faces charges of aggravated assault of a family member, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, as well as a felon in possession of a firearm. Police also say that the woman's boyfriend, current boyfriend, was there when her ex showed up. He also fired shots at the ex as well. And it's unknown whether or not he sustained any injuries. But again, it doesn't look like he is facing charges either. A case of armed self-defense outside of this daycare in Virginia. Finally today, our good deed of the day. Is that Virginia? Houston, Texas, excuse me. Our good deed of the day is from Virginia. Colonial Heights, Virginia, as a matter of fact, the Richmond suburb, where a Virginia man saved a grandmother and her grandchildren from a house fire. Again, a very tense and scary situation there in Colonial Heights. It was on on Monday of this week. Bradley Stuller said there was something bad happening and I could help, so that's all I could do. He was driving down the road Monday afternoon when he saw smoke coming out of a house. He said, I met up with a young kid in the car when I asked him if the house was on fire, and he said, yeah. And I said, is anybody in there? And he said, Meemaw. Oh, so that's when Stuller ran around to the back of the home. He went inside. He said it was pitch black. He couldn't see anything. He said, I got her down the stairs and outside. But then once she was out on the yard, he ran back in. He said the fire's right there in the living room. And that's where I could hear babies crying. He said the fire's 3 feet away from me. I could hear the kids 6 feet away from me. Stuller was not able to reach the children, but thankfully, firefighters from Colonial Heights made it into the home and managed to pull the kids out. One of them aged 2 years, one of them just a year old. At last report, both the children and the grandmother listed in critical condition at a local hospital in Richmond. Destiny Davis, one of the family members, says, I just thank him so much. He is the reason that my grandmother is alive. Don't know what the cause of the fire was at this point. They believe that it started in the living room. That's where the fire was largely contained to. The children apparently were in a pack and play there in the living room. A GoFundMe has been set up to help the family with the costs associated with the damage done in the blaze. But at this point, again, family is also requesting prayers for the grandmother and the 2 children who are in the hospital. So if you are the praying kind, you know what to do. Send your prayers up for that family. Speaking of, by the way, I have a sad update to a story we first brought you a couple of months ago. I had asked for prayers for this couple in Southern California, a husband and wife who were both battling cancer. And I am sad to report that one of these 2 individuals has passed away. Leonard Salinas lost his fight with cancer earlier this month. Longtime Ventura County probation officer, was diagnosed with 2 kinds of lung cancer, both stage 4, last October. His wife was also diagnosed with cancer not long earlier, and the 2 of them were profiled in local media because, again, of the circumstances, right, where they're both fighting cancer. And unfortunately, Leonard Salinas, who was beloved by his family, by his friends, by the community at large. He was a photographer, a videographer, a graphic designer, worked on weddings, music videos, and concerts. Actually played with Grammy-winning composer and arranger Nan Schwartz, who said he was fantastic. She said he would never charge her for the work. He would just, kind of deflect every time. She'd say, send me an invoice. She said she finally wrote him a check, made him take it. She said that's the kind of guy he was. His obituary reports that he was a performer himself who sang with his father in an entertainment band. He met his wife nearly 25 years ago in an Irish pub alongside another man who was also interested in her, but she said she picked Salinas because of his charm and his smile. They married 15 years ago. Salinas said that, his wife, Ms. Marquez, said that even at the end, he still took care of me. She said, I can either cry because of the loss or choose to smile every day because of the time that I spent with such a wonderful man. Salinas was a hero to his family, to his friends, to those who knew and loved him. And as somebody who has been dealing with my own spouse's fight with cancer for 7 years, I know the struggle that his wife was dealing with and caring for herself and trying to care for her husband. My thoughts and my prayers go out to her and her family right now. And I hope that she is able to, I don't know. I was going to say find some closure. You can't. But I hope that she is able to rely on the help of her friends and family, as well as the kindness and the thoughts and prayers of strangers to help her through this incredibly difficult time. So again, if you're the praying kind, please keep a little room in your heart for Leonard Salinas and his wife, Maria Marquez. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. Again, want to thank you for being a part of the program. As always, I'm looking forward to being back with you again tomorrow. Until then, make sure you check out bearingarms.com. We are updating the website throughout the day with all of the Second Amendment news and information that you need to know about. And if you like what you see, I'd also encourage you to become a VIP member. Just go to bearingarms.com/subscribe. Use the promo code GUNRIGHTS, and you can get a significant savings on your VIP membership. It is so critically important we have independent pro-Second Amendment voices right now, considering the anti-gun bias inherent in the mainstream media. So thank you for your support. Really, it means a lot. And we're going to say thanks not only by, verbalizing it, but by giving you exclusive content, news stories, and analysis you won't find anywhere else, because your support really does matter and it does make a difference. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. We'll see you back here Thursday. Until then, be well, be safe, and be free.